Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My pronouns are she, her. I stand here as a proud queer woman who identifies as bisexual. I'm also the aunt of a non-binary high school student. I tell you this because it informs what I'm about to tell you. So I'll start with something that I know we all agree on, that youth sports participation is a good thing. So let's just hold that brief moment when we all agree on something. But really, I want you to hear from the voices of transgender children who are involved in sports. With your permission, I'd like to read a few quotes.
Without objection.
Quote, "I think that all transgender kids play sports for the same reasons all kids play sports. To do something they love, to have fun with their friends, and to be part of a team." That is Rebecca, and she's 11. Quote, "The best thing about being a girl is now I don't have to pretend to be a boy." And that is from Avery, age 9. "It was so much easier for me because I introduced myself the way that I saw myself." And that is Kale, age 12, talking about joining a team. Another quote, "Suppressing myself just to be able to play sports felt like a piece of me was dying, like I was killing myself at the same time just to play. And that's why I ultimately came out and transitioned." And that is from Emma, age 15. You've heard the statistics surrounding youth mental health and especially LGBTQ plus youth, so I know that you know that creating more barriers for any group of young people to participate in sports is bad policy. The fact that legislators are creating an environment that pushes specific groups of children out of existence in sports teams in service to a political agenda is objectively terrible, it's discriminatory, and it's cruel, Mr. Speaker. And I'm going to continue to use those words that your side is railing against because we call it like we see it over here on this side. But, Mr. Speaker, I know that many on your side also care about youth mental health, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to live your values, to show that youth mental health also matters to the GOP and not just to our side. And I'm going to do that by reading some lovely quotes from members of the Republican Party in Wisconsin. This from the senator in the 19th, who I believe is involved in a hearing today. Quote, "I'm very saddened that kids are struggling," she said. "When I think back to my time in school, these are not things that I personally struggled with to the extent that I'm seeing that kids are struggling with today." And this quote is from the representative from the 25th. "I will continue to prioritize mental health reform in Wisconsin as it is an overwhelming problem, especially facing our youth." Thank you for recognizing that. And this quote from the representative from the 39th. "Our investment today shows our commitment to ensuring schools have the resources they need to help kids overcome the harm that has been done over the past year and a half." Now, the representative was not referring to the harm that has happened in the last year and a half with all this anti-transgender legislation. He was talking about COVID, but it shows me that he cares about youth mental health. "Participation in athletics in general can be beneficial to youth, and policies allowing transgender youth to access athletics can mitigate the harms that they face. We know that inclusive school policies are associated with lower suicide risks and greater feelings of safety at school for all LGBTQ plus students. Transgender and non-binary students with inclusive policies are less likely to skip school experiences. They're less likely to experience victimization or harassment. Transgender and non-binary athletes have higher grades than those who did not participate in sports, and LGBTQ plus athletes reported 20% lower rates of depression. Transgender students in states with fully inclusive athletic policies were 14 percentage points less likely to have considered suicide in the past year than students in states with no guidance. This data is easily sourced. The bottom line is, Where transgender and non-binary youth encounter accepting and affirming policies and peers, including transgender affirming sports policies, their risks of poor mental health and suicidality decreases. And where those supports are lacking, the risks are substantially higher. Now, I was an English major, so I'm reminded about the lady doth protest too much, methinks, from Hamlet. And I think some of the comments about hate come from that. I think there's a recognition, Mr. Speaker, that this is doing harm, and I think it's difficult for some people to swallow that when they press their green buttons that will become beacons of hate to the Wisconsinites later. What I want to tell you to end this is that you can't sugarcoat bigotry and discrimination under arguments of fairness and equality. No amount of histrionics today on this floor is going to couch that for anything but what it is: a politically motivated attack on a population of children who are already statistically vulnerable to harm. I will not stand here as a Wisconsinite, as a queer woman, as an aunt of a non-binary child, and as a human being who cares about other human beings and let this stand. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, yes, the people of Wisconsin are watching, and yes, the people of Wisconsin expect us to do the right things. And the right thing is to let children play sports on the teams that they wish to play on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.